Welcome to Inner Psychology. On paper, your life is likely stable. You meet your obligations and follow the expected path. But beneath that routine sits a quiet suspicion that something is missing. You can't point to a specific crisis, but you feel a persistent lack of engagement with your own days. This isn't a sudden breakdown. It is a steady, quiet emptiness that persists even when your schedule is full. External stability ensures your life functions, but it does not satisfy the internal need for psychological depth. We often mistake this feeling for clinical depression, burnout, or standard sadness. However, all of those conditions involve different biological and emotional triggers. This specific pathology involves a lack of internal connection, a state where emotional depth has been entirely replaced by routine. You might continue moving forward in your career and relationships, but you do so without feeling present or engaged in the results. It is possible to maintain a highly functional life while existing inside a total psychological vacuum. You are operating in the surface layer. This is a psychological space where your schedule is packed to the minute, but your mind remains empty. That hollow sensation comes from how your time is spent. Most modern activity is dedicated to reacting to stimuli and seeking distraction, which leaves no room for creating or reflecting. When you live strictly on the surface, moving constantly from one digital input to another, you eliminate the stillness required to look inward. Because a day filled with passive consumption lacks the psychological weight required to feel significant. To understand why the mind stays trapped on the surface, we can look at this cross-section. There are 4 specific blockades preventing your awareness from descending into the deeper, meaningful subsurface. The first is constant distraction. When the mind never slows down, it accumulates a massive backlog of unprocessed thoughts that stay trapped on the surface. Second is motion without progress. You are busy, but your actions lack a clear direction. You move in tight circles, generating friction without moving toward anything that actually matters to you. The third is emotional suppression. Avoiding uncomfortable feelings creates a barrier that keeps your experience shallow. You remove the pain, but you remove depth along with it. Finally, there is external living. When your life is built around societal validation and the expectations of others, you lose the ability to hear your own internal desires. These 4 habits construct a life that works for everyone else, but feels entirely hollow to the person living it. This persistent emptiness is frequently viewed as a failure or a symptom to be suppressed. In reality, the brain produces this feeling of lack when the psychological depth it requires isn't being met. Much like hunger is a signal for physical nutrients, emptiness is a signal for psychological meaning. When you try to silence this signal with more digital noise, mindless social content, or endless busyness, you are expanding the internal void. An internal emotional vacuum cannot be filled by external stimulation, no matter how much you consume. Solving this requires a deliberate and often uncomfortable descent into psychological stillness. The first step is to reduce digital stimulation. You cannot foster internal awareness while your environment is filled with constant noise. You must sit entirely alone with your unprocessed thoughts. No phone, no music, no external input to deflect the initial discomfort. Stripping away the noise allows you to finally hear the internal signals that the surface layer has been drowning out. Once the noise stops, you can change the question you ask yourself. Instead of, "What should I do?" ask, "What actually matters to me?" This requires moving from passive consumption to active creation, writing, building, or developing your own ideas. Your life doesn't feel empty because nothing is happening. It feels empty because the things that are happening don't feel significant. Meaning is built in the deep through reflection and intentional action. It is not something you find while scrolling on the surface. The emptiness won't vanish immediately, but the decision to stop running and understand your own mind changes how you interact with every moment that follows.